Hello and welcome to the weekend preview. We are joined with Cameron and Ty Swanky, one YouTuber and one football person who thinks his opinion's better than everybody else. Don't you, Cameron?
Yeah, 100%.
Right, we are going to preview the 10 weekend Premier League fixtures, the opening weekend, and review the business that's been done so far in the 2018-2019 transfer window, which did shut yesterday at 5 p.m. So let's start with tonight's game. Obviously, this video might not be up before tonight's game, but it might be up tomorrow morning. Manchester United against Leicester. Ty, you are a Man United fan. Can I have your opinion, first of all, on the transfer window Man United have had?
I think a lot of people were saying the transfer window is a lot worse than it actually was, even though we did sign a third choice fullback, a third choice goalkeeper, an injured fullback, and a Brazilian midfielder that we probably didn't really need. But I think we obviously needed a centre back, and we obviously wanted one through transfer deadline day. And maybe if we got one of them, our transfer business would have been up to scratch. But since we didn't get one, I don't think we're gonna challenge as much.
Mourinho got mugged off on deadline day, I think, didn't he? He went for two, and they both snubbed him off, really. And then you've got the other one, Harry Maguire, who's playing against you tonight, which is not the most ideal situation.
Yeah, watch him have a man of match performance tonight.
It's going to be an interesting game because I've spoken to a few United fans and they all think it's going to be in for a tough game and they could see Leicester nicking a result. I think a point would be a good start to the season, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of the players are still coming back from the World Cup. I think Pogba and Lingard I think Fellaini's with that as well. They're still awaiting their fitness to see whether they can even play a part in the game.
Yeah, I don't really agree with this sort of thing where players need extra time from the World Cup. I mean, you're a professional footballer. You get paid to play. It should really be. It's been what has it been? Almost a month since the World Cup final. I don't know how many players are in the final for United. I think it was just Pogba, wasn't it? It's just Pogba.
Yeah.
Well, obviously Harry Maguire did put out a tweet last night saying ready for the new season, pretty much with the hashtag LCFC. So he's obviously committed to staying there now, even though he did want to move, but he didn't. And it's one of those things you see quite a lot, which happened with Liverpool last season with Coutinho. He went in January, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what Mourinho can do. He was very frustrated when he did his press conference. I personally think it will be a 1-1 draw. I think it's got a 1-1 draw written all over it. I think United need to get a result though, or there could be some scrutiny for Mourinho sooner or later, shall I say? Okay. Cameron, Liverpool against West Ham Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
First game of season. I think when I saw the fixtures come out, I thought, no, it's a routine result for Liverpool. But since then, West Ham have gone on a bit of a badness with their transfer window.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a difficult one, to be honest. Like, you look at the signings they've made, and Yarmolenko from Dortmund and Felipe Anderson from Lazio, and I don't even know who else. They signed Sanchez yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah, Carlos Sanchez for Fiorentina.
Yeah. He had a good World Cup with Colombia, and I don't know. It's going to be a difficult one. It's because Liverpool will go into it as favourites, obviously, but it's going to be West Ham are just going to be a completely different side to last year. Obviously, with a new manager as well, it's going to be an interesting game. But I'm hopeful that Liverpool can get the job done and start on a high. But
I must say, in my personal Premier League prediction, Liverpool. Well, I got them down to finish second, just to be picked by Man City. But there's no reason why it wouldn't surprise me at all if Liverpool did win the Premier League this season. It's not going to be it wouldn't surprise me in any way at all, really, with the squad you've got and the depth is quite phenomenal this season.
Yeah, the only problem I still think is like one thing that I think Klopp thought as well, that we needed a centre half, but I still think we need that. Whether he's going to play Joe Gomez, but the problem with Gomez is his injury problems. He's a good young player.
Had a couple of injury problems in the last couple of years, hasn't he?
And you can't really rely on Joel Matip, but he's got the same sort of problem. And Klavan, I don't really think's up to it anymore. But hopefully, injuries won't be a problem. And
it's an interesting one. I think Liverpool will win 2-1. Personally on Sunday, but it's going to be interesting to see how Pellegrini gets his West Ham team to gel with all these new signings. The same could be said for Wolves and Fulham. Obviously, it's all good signing 9 or 10 players in the transfer window, but if you can't get them to gel together, then you're going to struggle.
Yeah, I'm trying to be less biased. I do fancy Liverpool to their firepower just be a bit too strong for West Ham. But it'll be a close game.
It'd be nice to see Mo Salah follow up his first season. It was quite phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, it's brilliant. He's had a really good pre-season, so he's only been back a few weeks, but well, hopefully. And even if Salah's not not performing. As I said, the squad depth this year has been, well, it's pretty impressive. So anyone who's not performing, they're under pressure, really. And last year that wasn't really a problem, but
you did do a bit of deadline day business. It was sending Danny Ings on his way down Southampton to my beloved club. His thoughts on that one? Is that a good move for him?
Danny's certainly a player with brilliant ability. It just didn't really work out for him at Liverpool. It's a shame, really. I've always said when in the 3-4 years he's been there, so he's been a really good player. And if he stayed injury free and he had got the game time he needed, he'd become a really good striker. And I still say that today. But I think that he's going to do really well at Saints. I think Saints needed a striker. They needed a bit of output up there because Gabbiadini, I'm not really sure what to think of him, but I think Danny Ings will do really well. Obviously, he's a Southampton lad as well, so to go back to
I'm obviously happy we've brought him in. I mean, I'll touch on the Southampton game later. But,
yeah.
I mean, it was a good bit of business. It was a pretty quiet deadline day, wasn't it? It wasn't wasn't the most exciting. I think Everton and Fulham probably got the better deadline day.
Yeah, and I think
everybody else.
Fulham especially, yeah. And obviously Everton's a bit hot. Don't really know what to say there really with them, but they are good signings. But whether they can fit in at Premier League level, because Andre Gomez is a good player, but he didn't really work out for him at Barcelona.
Didn't play much at Barcelona, I must say.
And Yerry Mina's a strange one. Why they signed? They only signed him in January, and they're letting him go already. And he had a really good World Cup.
It is surprising, that one, because he maybe could have pushed his way into the Barcelona team, but obviously they thought differently. Into Coot for Everton, they needed a centre back, in my opinion. They got an aging defence line.
Exactly, yeah. So
it's a good signing. Well, the next one I've got written down on my list is probably the biggest game of the weekend is Arsenal-Man City on Sunday. Definitely going to be an interesting one. It's Unai Emery's first competitive game in charge of Arsenal, and obviously City have already had the Community Shield victory. Did you go to that?
I didn't know. I was going to, but I didn't.
You didn't. Swanky, Man City, title favourites again?
I think after last season, you can't look past Man City. You never know what's going to happen for the second season, but you can't really tell what's going to happen after Arsene Wenger leaves. And Unai Emery, there was a reason why he left PSG and why PSG didn't want to extend his contract. And if we're going to find that out pretty quickly, then Arsenal might not have as good a season as we expected. But just looking at last season alone, you've got to have Man City as a favourites.
Well, I think City have only brought in Mahrez really, and a few youngsters. But did they really need to bring anybody in? I don't think they did, really, did they?
Probably not.
No, I don't. You've got to think they didn't need to bring in. I think Mahrez is adding a bit of competition for Sterling and Silva, and possibly even Sane. But I think you can't really look past City. I think Sunday will be a real test for both teams. It's going to be a really interesting game because obviously, Cameron, you do follow a bit of German football.
Yeah.
They've brought in a couple of players, Arsenal, from the Bundesliga, Lichtsteiner and Leno. I think there's the ones they've brought in.
Socrates.
Socrates, sorry, yeah, Lichtsteiner's Juventus, isn't he? But there's a couple of good signings there. He hasn't really gone for many youngsters. He's gone a couple of them, but I don't think they'll play much. But
Leno's a really good goalie. I think that's a really good bit of business. And I think it was only less than 20 million, which is a bargain. But Socrates is a bit of a risk, because Arsenal have always lacked at the back, especially recent years. There's a bit of pace and a bit of stability there. And I know they've had Koscielny and Mustafi, but he's very similar to them. Socrates, he's not that quick either. So going to be an interesting one there. But Leno was a really good signing, and to be honest, Lichtstein is a good fullback as well. It was a problem area for them, and I think they filled that quite well.
Well, just to touch on the goalkeeper subject before we go on, a lot of Premier League clubs are bringing in 3 quality goalkeepers now. It's not just your 2 regular fighting for it, isn't it? It's 3, because you've got Arsenal, you've got Ospina, Cech, and obviously Bert Leno, who can do a job. You've got Chelsea, Rob Green could do a job, even behind Aris Kepa, I can't even say his name, Arrizabalaga. And Caballero. United have obviously brought in Lee Grant. I mean, Liverpool have got 3 good keepers. It's definitely going to be. Is it harder to get in? Because a couple of seasons ago, you see keepers playing 38 games and not getting a look in for the reserve keeper.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea, obviously, because if you've got injury problems, red cards, it happens, especially with VAR now and everything. You see red cards given for penalties and all sorts of things, but it makes it harder for youngsters in this country, which has always been a problem of youngsters coming through. It makes it impossible now with every club having three top class goalkeepers.
It happened at Liverpool, didn't it? Because Danny Ward went to was it Huddersfield or Leicester?
He went to Leicester for 12 million, and that's a shame because I thought Danny Ward, he's a player again, been there for a bit like Danny Ings, been there for a fair few years and didn't really get a look in, and it's a shame because what I've seen of him. So he had that loan season at Huddersfield when they got promoted, and he was brilliant. So shame really, but
it is an interesting one, and I think on Sunday, obviously Arsenal will play Bird Leno. But then again, if he slips up, you've easily got two other keepers in Cech and Ospina who could just come in and fill in. Like Ospina, I think, played a fair bit in the Premier League last season under the last season of Wenger, because Cech wasn't the greatest keeper last season, I must admit. Right, let's move on to my beloved Southampton Football Club. We are playing Burnley on Sunday. I'm going to that game. So, can I have you two's thoughts on... First of all, let's go with Burnley, because obviously they're in Europe this season.
I'll go first.
There's no rush.
Yeah. I don't really understand why on earth they bought Joe Hart, if I'm honest, with them.
Again, it's another one of those three keeper things, isn't it? Because you've got Nick Pope and Tom Eaton.
But on the other hand, you just think, like, just from Joe Hart's point of view, he's a player that would want to try and get back in the England squad potentially. And why would you go to a club with Nick Pope and Tom Eaton, who are obviously both England rivals? It's a strange one, but money maybe, I'm not sure. But
it's a headache for Gareth Southgate.
Definitely, yeah, and to be honest, it's a headache for Sean Dyche as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that they'd they obviously drew 0-0 last night in their Europa League game. I hope that they seem to put out a little bit of a rotation side, Burnley, from what I was looking at, so it could be a bit of a tough game for us on Sunday. We've obviously made you tested me now. 4 or 5 signs. We signed Angus Gunn again with the 3 keeper situation: Angus Gunn, Fraser Forster, and Alex McCarthy. El Yanusi from Basel, who I know not much about. Stuart Armstrong from Celtic, who I've seen a few times play. Yannick Vestergaard from Gladbach, again another one I don't watch much German football, but obviously you know the name. And Danny Ings coming in on deadline day, which I'm very happy about. We think we needed another striker, someone who could score goals as long as he stays fit. It is sort of a risk. I think it's the same sort of risk as Jack Wilshere. If you sign a West Ham signing Jack Wilshere with the injury factor, but if it pays off, it will really suit us if it pays off and he doesn't get injured.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. The only problem is bringing in a player like Danny Ings is you've got Charlie Austin's another one who's a good striker and can score plenty of goals. Just his fitness and injuries, which is a problem, and you don't want too many players like that in your squad. But
when he got into his scoring mode last season, he was November, December time. He got injured, and it really did hamper us because obviously, we almost went down last season. So it was a bit of a hairy situation for everyone involved. But I think I would take a point from this weekend. Burnley obviously have still got the same team they did last season. I don't think they'll do as well as last season with extra games, even that's if they get into the Europa League. But it'll be an interesting one. I can't wait to obviously get the season going, and then on Sunday, I mean, I hope we could get a win, but realistically, I think it'll be a 1-1 or a 0-0, because it's probably what will happen on the opening day with Southampton, with me going down there as well. Let's move on to some of the Saturday games. I've got on here, well, the first one which really did interest me is Huddersfield against Chelsea.
I've not really been following Huddersfield that too much. I think they broke their transfer record on Kongolo from, I think it was Monaco.
Yeah, Dutch left back. Again, that was a strange one. He was quite a big name player in the Eredivisie and went to Monaco last season. Didn't work out for him. Was he the one who was on loan at Huddersfield last year and they signed him?
I think he was.
Yeah.
Bloody postman. Inconvenient timing.
But yeah, he was just apart from that, I haven't really seen enough from Huddersfield to think they'll survive. It's I like Huddersfield. They play good football, and Wagner's a good manager. But have they got the firepower or the defence to survive? I'm not sure they have.
I personally think Huddersfield will go down. They are in my bottom 3 to go down.
Yeah.
I think they'll suffer from second season syndrome, as has been said a few times in pre-season. They've done a bit of business, but it's not. I don't think it's good business, but I don't think it's going to be enough. If you know what I mean. With the other teams doing better business, it's the same situation with Cardiff, really. you look at it
Yeah.
like that. So I think, well, it will be an interesting game because obviously Chelsea haven't really done much business either. They've signed Jorginho and a keeper. They brought in Kovacic as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which is which is a big dilemma for their midfield because they have an abundance of midfielders now.
Definitely.
And you gotta feel for players like Loftus-Cheek.
Definitely. Did he go out on loan yesterday, or
He didn't leave, and neither did Bakayoko. So I don't know what they're going to do with their midfield this season. I
Well,
really don't.
don't forget the European leagues. The deadline day is not well for them. The window's open till September the 1st. So if they are going to leave the country, they obviously can't join another Premier League side. But if they are to leave the country, they can still do so.
Well, Bakayoko is still heavily linked with AC Milan, so see if that comes to fruition over the next few days. Which, for his sake, I hope it does, because he's not going to get in that Chelsea team.
No, definitely not. Especially after his performances last season, no chance.
Not a chance. On the next one is probably one of the most interesting games of the weekend. Again, it's two teams I predicted to finish in the top half. Wolves against Everton. Both had, in my opinion, fantastic transfer windows.
Yeah.
I think Everton are slightly edged with the quality of player. I don't get me wrong, Wolves haven't signed quality players, but this one, how do you think they'll both fare this season, Wolves and Everton?
Alright then, I'll go first. My mum's a Wolves fan, so I've been kind of just bombarded with information about them, and it seems like they've signed a lot of players, but not really spent that much money. I think the Rui Patricio deal from a struggling, was it Porto side?
Sporting Lisbon.
Sporting. And anyway, just players like that, and players like Moutinho. People talk about Shaqiri having a good deal from Stoke for 12 million. They bought Moutinho for 5 million. He was playing Champions League football last season. Might not have had the best season, but it's still 5 million for a Champions League quality player. I think keeping hold of Ruben Neves was probably one of the best signings they've done, to be honest.
Liverpool heavily linked with him towards the start of the window.
Yeah. Here they kept hold of him, and even signed him in the Championship in the first place. You're not really sure, but I think with this game, it's either going to be who's got the better squad or who's settling quicker.
It will certainly be an interesting one to see what both teams put out, because obviously Everton have signed, off the top of my head, I haven't got a list or anything, they've signed Bernard, Yerry Mina, Andre Gomez. Bloody hell, you're testing the waters now of who Everton have signed, but they have signed a fair few players. Wolves have obviously signed an abundance of players.
Richarlison as well.
Richarlison, yeah, Everton's a very good signing for Everton. And Wolves have obviously signed I think deadline day they signed Den Donker, didn't they? And Zinchenko from Manchester City.
Den Donker's a very good player.
I think this Zinchenko deal fell through.
Oh, did it fall through? I was at work yesterday, so it didn't really fall through. But it's certainly been a good window for both teams, and I've personally gone for a draw. I can only really see it being a draw, that game.
Are the deadline day players allowed to play?
I presume so, because Joe Hart signed for Burnley, was it on Wednesday, and he played last night. It was a quick turnaround. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But what tends to happen with these sort of signings is they sort of sit on the bench, don't they, or sit in the stands for the first game. You tend to see it a lot, unless obviously with Wolves, if they've signed 10 or 11 players, just like Fulham have, and they might go straight into the first team. Which is interesting, because Fulham seem to have the problem where they've signed 2 goalkeepers, in Rico and Roberto. One of them probably going to start on Saturday.
Yeah.
You would think.
It's got surely it'd be Rico, obviously being the Sevilla first choice goalie, and
I would have thought so. He's a good keeper to sign as well.
And the other one, was he from Besiktas or something?
Yeah, Besiktas.
Turkish. Yeah, I thought so.
I think they were both on loan. I'm not sure. I think Fabrizio could have been a permanent one, but I know Rico was a loan deal.
Because that's a problem. That's the only problem I see with Fulham, and is the fact is they're making good signings, good players, but it's whether how long they can keep hold of them. Because obviously they're only on a lot of them are loan players for the season, and whether their clubs can pull them back, I'm not sure. But
yeah, okay, we'll move on to the Fulham game as we're on the top of the conversation. They've made 12 signings all over in the window. I did see a tweet. They made a couple on deadline day. I can't remember the name of the lad they signed from Marseille yesterday, but it was
like four-barreled name or something.
It was a 3 or 4 barreled name, and it was a very but it looked like a good signing. I think obviously being local, Bristol City are one of our local clubs. They signed Joe Bryan from Bristol City. Swanky, you watched Bristol City a few times last season. I would have thought personally he would have gone to Aston Villa, but he didn't. He sort of snubbed him in the end.
Yeah, I seen a thing on Twitter. I'm not sure how true it is that he was about to sign for Villa and then Fulham were on the phone. So, bit of transfer wheeling and dealing from there. I've been watching Bristol City a bit in pre-season and quite a bit last season. And Joe Bryan was maybe one of their best players in probably an overachievement of a season last season. Did peter out towards the end. I think they finished 9th or 10th, which is still a pretty good season
Yeah,
since they.
it definitely was a good season considering the cup run as well, and obviously the squad they had isn't exactly that. Well, on paper it's not the best Championship squad, but obviously it just turned out to be very good throughout the entirety of last season. I mean, they've lost 3 of their best players to Premier League clubs, haven't they, this window? Or Flint's gone to Middlesbrough, but I think with that Joe Bryan signing for Fulham, I think that means Ryan Sessegnon's going to be playing a bit more forward, which is pretty good for us to watch, isn't it? Because Sessegnon is something special.
I think with either of them can play left wing or left back, so it's just fluidity on that left wing, even better for Fulham.
It's a very versatile left side. Obviously, Cameron, you've watched Dortmund a few times. Schürrle, I mean, obviously, wasn't in the starting 11 at Dortmund, from what I've gathered, and I think that's a good sign for Fulham on a 2-year loan deal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, obviously, I didn't think he did that badly when he was at Chelsea when he was in England, but he's doing all right.
I think the lad scores goals.
He does, yeah, and
he just doesn't. His goal scoring record is quite good, I reckon, from what I remember watching from him from Chelsea and what I've seen at Dortmund and Germany.
Yeah, he's a good. He just didn't really get much game time at Dortmund. It was a difficult season last year with about 2-3 managers there, and he just didn't really get the game time he wanted. Obviously, Royce came back into full fitness, and he wasn't getting the game time. So hopefully, if he comes back into the Premier League and a team like Fulham who play attractive attacking football, he might thrive in that team. You never know, but for his sake, you hope as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've got Fulham down for just in the bottom. Well, I've got them in for a bottom half finish, but obviously, from what I said in my prediction, is it could chop and change that bottom half. But Palace, their opponents, do you reckon Palace could be in for a bit of trouble this season, or will they do enough? Because
I personally think Palace they were one of the teams I put to go down.
Interesting.
I know they've kept Zaha, but it's just you look at that squad and you just think, is it? They struggled last year, and you're thinking, are they good enough to really survive? Obviously, they've got better squads than Cardiff and Huddersfield. It's just whether the other teams are strong enough to put them down. But you look at like Newcastle. I don't know if you're going to talk about Newcastle, but their business with Rafa Benitez, and he's obviously Mike Ashley's a really difficult scenario there, but the money he's spent and the players he's brought in, you can't doubt it. It's really brilliant business from him. And obviously to get someone like Rondon for a swap deal for Dwight Gale, who didn't really play much football last year, is a brilliant bit of business.
I think obviously the only signing of note I've known from Crystal Palace is them signing Cheku Kouyaté from West Ham, which obviously made sense for Kouyaté with all the new signings to West Ham coming in.
Yeah.
I don't think Palace will go down because the 3 teams I've predicted to go down are Brighton, Huddersfield and Cardiff. That's just my opinion. But I think Palace, I don't think they'll win tomorrow. I think Fulham will get 3 points. I think it'll be a 2 or 3-0 win for Fulham.
Yeah, I agree.
In all honesty, I think they'll have too much for him. It's just, with the thing is with Fulham, like I've said, touched on, is yes, I think everyone wants them to do well, and all Fulham fans I know are saying yes. Look at the signs we made. This is good signs. They have to gel. They've really got to gel, or it could just be a difficult, inconsistent season for Fulham. But I hope it isn't, because obviously I like Fulham. It's a nice little club. I've been there a couple of times in last season. Let's move on to you said Newcastle, and they are playing Tottenham in the early kick-off tomorrow. Very interesting window from Tottenham. The first club in Premier League history not to bring in a signing. Did they need to bring in a signing though, Swanky?
I think they might have brought one in if the opportunity arose, but I think that they're making a bit more of their stadium than they probably need to. I've seen Arsenal have a similar problem when they moved into the Emirates, and moving into a new stadium is hampering their transfer window a bit more than they probably thought when they decided it. But
it's a distraction, isn't it?
Yeah, I think keeping their players was a better signing than what they could have signed. I don't think signing a player, maybe even like Llorente last season, I don't think signing a player just for the sake of signing a player was better for them either.
I think they were the only player I saw him really interested in was Jack Grealish, and that deal he was told he couldn't go to Villa. He couldn't leave Villa on the final day. Again, would Grealish have got anywhere near the Tottenham first team in that season? I don't think so. Yes, he's played good in the Championship, but I don't think he would have got anywhere near the Tottenham team, especially when you've got Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli ahead of him who can play in that position he plays in.
When you got players like Moussa Dembele who can't get in the Spurs starting lineup, you got to say Jack Grealish wouldn't have got anywhere near it.
Yeah, it would have been a strange deal. I think it would have been just a signing for the sake of a signing from Tottenham, really.
Yeah.
But like a few people have said in their videos, I think the best business Tottenham have done is getting their players signed on, which is Pochettino seems to be very, very good at getting them on long-term contracts, all of them.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially after the World Cup, Harry Kane I'm pretty sure he would have had some interest from big clubs, even though none of it was reported. But yeah, he's obviously wanting to stay at Tottenham. I think that'll be an interesting one, though, Newcastle-Tottenham. I really do, because, like you said, Newcastle had a good season last year, and with Rafa's not got the money he wants, really, has he?
No, he hasn't really got the backing from the chairman, has he? Let's be honest.
Mike Ashley isn't the greatest football club owner, not the greatest example of how to own a football club.
No, sports director arena and all.
God, that was a travesty when that happened. But yeah, that'll be an interesting. I think I've picked Tottenham for a top 4 position this season. I think they'll have enough in their squad again to be in the top 4. It'd be interesting to see how they do in the Champions League, because I thought they were going to beat Juventus. I really did, but they had a 5-minute spell where Juventus just scored a couple of goals from Dybala, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that just showed the difference between the step up Spurs needed to make of being a world class club and a top side. You can't defend the way they did in those 5 minutes against Juve, and obviously a top club, Juventus, huge European powerhouse. They'll threaten you, and if you give them a chance, they'll take it. But so that was a problem that Spurs had, and hopefully they can build. As you said, although they haven't signed anyone, they've kept the same squad as last year, and I don't think they lost anyone, did they? Did they lose anyone?
No, I don't really. Not of note, anyway.
So.
Yeah, that's it. I completely agree with the point of Spurs' defence. A couple of times last season, they had a couple of games, like on the last day of the season. I think, what was it, 5-4 against Leicester, and then you had a couple of times again against Leicester, against us, Southampton. They were struggling away from home at our place. A couple of times where their defence was questionable.
Well, definitely. Well, as a Liverpool fan, I'll never forget that Mo Salah goal in the 92nd minute, whatever it was. He literally walked through about 5 Spurs defenders, and you can't defend like that. If you want to be a top side and you really want to challenge for the Premier League and be a top 4 and challenge for just be a top side in England, you can't defend like that. No, I know Mo Salah, you said he's brilliant, but you can't defend like that.
It's one of those things, really, and I think obviously Spurs probably hit on the centre-back partnership of Alderweireld and Vertonghen. It's probably one of the best in the Premier League. I've got to admit. Yeah, we've seen how good a World Cup they had for Belgium, getting to the semi-final and then losing, but finishing 3rd place.
Well, it shows that they're happy together, obviously, because Alderweireld did he turn down Man United the last couple of days, or?
He did. I think there was rumours of a £70 million plus deal for Alderweireld to Man United over the summer, but he obviously wanted to stay at Tottenham. Just like
how much
players
they paying him?
Man United. Let's go on to one of the last promoted teams. A bit of a low-key game on the opening day compared to the other fixtures. Bournemouth-Cardiff. I've personally tipped Cardiff to finish bottom of the league. I don't think they've made a good enough signing of Premier League quality to stay in. Swanky. I mean, yesterday they made a deal for Harry Arter. Again, I don't think it was enough.
I think even looking at their squad last season, they probably should have even got promoted, to be honest. And I think
they were punching. I really do think they were punching last season.
Yeah, I think even if you listen to Neil Warnock, I listened to him on TalkSport this morning, he doesn't even seem confident that his team are going to put up a fight against the teams like Newcastle or Huddersfield in his first 5 games. If you're not going to beat them teams, you're going to have a hard time staying out.
In terms of starts, Cardiff have got a kind of an easy-ish start. They've got Bournemouth and Newcastle in their opening 2 games, which is both winnable on their parts. It's certainly a chance to get 6 points. I don't think they'll get 6 points, but you look at the business they've done. I mean, I've tracked it a little bit. Alex Smithies, a goalkeeper from the Championship, who never seen him really play in the Premier League. Greg Cunningham, left back from Preston, who he's a good player. He's never played he's unproven at this level. And then there was rumours going around. I've heard from a couple of Cardiff fans that were meant to sign 2 or 3 players yesterday. I think the only one I kept track of was Harry Arter.
That was it. I saw as well.
Who wasn't always starting for Bournemouth last season.
No, it's Harry Arter. Like, obviously, he was influential in their rises up through the leagues, Bournemouth, and I felt a bit sorry for him really last year because obviously he's a really good player. It's just he didn't get the game time he perhaps deserved. Whether that's the Bournemouth team's too strong for him, but I think it's a good signing for Cardiff. It's just, as you said, is that him alone? Is that enough business for them to survive? And personally, I don't think it is.
I don't like seeing teams go down.
No.
But I just can't see anything else but Cardiff finishing in bottom of the league. To be honest, it's going to be one of those seasons. It seems to me like they're not planning. Like Spencer touched on in his video, they're not planning to stay very long. Like you said, Swanky, Neil Warnock on on TalkSport this morning. Because they played in pre-season. They came down to Truro, didn't they? And they played Torquay as well. They played a couple of games.
Again, that's
look that convincing.
No, and again, the thing is that's Neil Warnock, and although for the local sides, Cornwall, Devon area, it's brilliant to have a Premier League side coming down. Is that really the best sort of fixtures for him and for his team, for Cardiff, obviously going into the Premier League season? Should they be aiming to play better opposition, maybe? And I know, although it's great for the non-league sides and for teams like, Plymouth and things like that to have a Premier League team down, is it the best thing for Cardiff as a group of players? Because obviously the players aren't going to be that motivated going into. Well, as I said, I was at the Truro game, and you see people like Lee Camp. They weren't that. I know he's moved on now, but they weren't that motivated to be there.
It's an interesting fixture, especially I think pre-season's quite a hard time for players. I don't think a lot of them say, "Oh, I can't wait for pre-season." I've never said that personally when I've been playing football.
Yeah.
I think you just want to wait for the first kick-off. I mean, like you said about Bournemouth touching on Harry Arter, they're obviously, as their seasons go in the Premier League, I think this is their 3rd or 4th season in the Premier League, which is a phenomenal job for the size of the football club, having been there a couple of times myself. They signed Jefferson Lerma for 25 million, which is their transfer record. Eddie Howe seems to be spending a bit of money through this summer, which I think he has to do, really, because personally I thought Bournemouth would be struggling last season. They didn't. They sort of just held their ground like they have done in the Premier League. I haven't predicted them to go down again this season. Swanky, it's an interesting situation for Bournemouth. I mean, Eddie Howe is a great manager. If he has a good season, do you reckon he could be recommended for any bigger jobs than just Bournemouth? Not saying Bournemouth is not a big job, but in terms of club reputation.
I think Eddie Howe's a good manager, and bar a couple other managers, I think he could be not far from the England job, the other side of the World Cup. And I think Bournemouth probably not the best of sides. I think the only reason they didn't go down last season is because teams are worse than them, not necessarily related on Bournemouth's quality. But I think Eddie Howe with the transfer business is done now. I think he'll be happy with it. I think David Brooks from Sheffield United was a good buy. Not sure how much he's going to play. Not sure how much he's going to play, but he was lighting up the Championship, and no reason why he can't light up the Premier League as well.
They signed a couple of players from Levante, obviously that Jefferson Lerma yesterday, and I can't remember what the other lad was who they signed off the top of him, but he's another I think it was a winger again. Obviously they've probably kept the core of their squad. I don't know, is Jermaine Defoe still there? Was he already released in the window?
He's still there, and I think that's incredible from Bournemouth's point of view. The 3 strikers they had, obviously Defoe, King, and Wilson. They've all scored goals in the Premier League, and it's amazing how they've all managed to stay there.
On their day, they are great strikers for Bournemouth. When you watch them, sometimes when Bournemouth play well, when Bournemouth, because occasionally, obviously, Bournemouth do get battered by the bigger teams, but then they put in performances which are absolutely phenomenal. Like you said, Josh King, Callum Wilson, Defoe are in a class of their own, and it really does. You have to give plaudits to managers like Eddie Howe doing. With obviously limited funds from whatever you can get from a revenue of a crowd of 11,700 each week.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and obviously I want Bournemouth to stay up there, and I think it shows to clubs who want to try and go up the leagues. You look at Accrington Stanley again. Look at them going up from
League One,
League Two to League One, and it's the highest they've ever got.
Sunderland.
Exactly, it's ridiculous, really, but fair play to them, and it's teams like that you want to see do well, as opposed to the big Man City, big money spending teams. You'd rather see the smaller ones with limited budgets do well. That's why everyone loved the Leicester title winning campaign, because it was just everyone loved it because it was just a shock and no one expected it.
It was changed to the ordinary.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, let's move on to the final game of the weekend. It's two teams that I predicted to finish 17th and 18th. Watford against Brighton. I personally predicted Brighton to go down, despite doing a lot of business, and I predicted Watford to finish just above the relegation zone. Cameron, did you have Watford or Brighton anywhere near the relegation zone for your prediction for the Premier League season?
I had Brighton going down as my 18th side. And I thought Watford will be safe. I thought they'd be 15th, 16th. I think they'll be comfortably safe come the end. But Brighton, I just don't think, again, similar to Huddersfield, really, I just don't think they've strengthened as well as perhaps they should have done.
They've made an abundance of signings in the window. Don't get me wrong, they've made so much transfer business. But again, it's like Huddersfield. Is it Premier League quality?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I don't know who they get the contacts from. Obviously, Wagner's getting all the Huddersfield players from the Bundesliga. But it's like you look at some of the signings Chris Hughton's making, and I know Chris Hughton's a brilliant manager. What he's done at Brighton was brilliant. But on the other hand, you just look at some of the signings he's making. You're thinking, are they good enough? Are they Premier League quality? Are they perhaps the level that they need to be for them to survive? Obviously, especially when you look at the bigger teams and they're constantly strengthening. I know Spurs didn't, but the rest of them are just. You look at Liverpool's squad depth now, and Man United's squad, and City's, Chelsea's, and can these smaller sides, your Brightons, your Huddersfields, can they compete? That's the problem they've got.
No, I completely agree. I think the only cup signings I saw them Brighton make off the top of my head was the Nigerian centre back from Real Betis.
Yeah.
Balajan, and then the one yesterday or the day before, Yabankash, I don't know if that's how you say his name, the Iranian midfielder from the Dutch leagues, which is a good signing, but I just don't personally think they'll have enough. I think it's the same with Watford. They've lost Richarlison and replaced him with, made the permanent deal for Deulofeu. Swanky,
Yeah.
Do you think Watford could be in any sort of danger of going down this season?
I think this game and both the teams are probably going to be in for a boring season. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this game finished 0-0.
No.
And both the teams went down. If I had my bets on, I'm not really a betting man, but if I was, I'd bet on both of these teams to go down.
It certainly wouldn't surprise me come the end of the season if Watford and Brighton were in the relegation zone and they were going back to the Championship. I think when you get money for a player like Richarlison for 35, 50 million, however much it was, you need to sort of spend it right. And I just think making Deulofeu permanent, yes, on his day he's a great player, but he doesn't have enough of those days, if you get what I mean. He doesn't do it consistently enough.
Because
Troy Deeney, their influential player, didn't have much of a season last season, did he?
No. And the thing with Watford is the amount of money they've spent in the past on players that haven't really performed. Like Nordin Amrabat, he didn't really perform. Okaka, the Italian, again, didn't really do his transfer fee justice. And his player, I don't know if he's still there, but is it the Argentine, Pereira?
I think he's still there. I think he's still there. I haven't heard anything of him going.
He was like a big... When they signed him, that was a huge signing. And again, he hasn't really delivered, and that's the risk you take when you buy players from other leagues coming into the Premiership. But on the other hand, some of the players, Decore had a fantastic season last year, and
very solid.
Yeah, and you just hope players like Troy Deeney, and there were rumours about him going to Cardiff. I don't know whether that happened.
No, he's still there. He's still there, I think.
But they've still got young. They got a young squad. Obviously, players like Will Hughes was a player that was a lot of top teams wanted him when he was in the Championship. Was it at Derby? And I hope that players like that get a chance. And Watford, I reckon, as I said earlier, I think they'll survive pretty comfortably, to be honest. But whether that's down to their squad, I don't think it is. I think that's mainly down to other squads being worse than theirs. Which, as Swanky said, was it Bournemouth? That's what saved them last year.
I completely agree. I think Watford, like you say, they have these players who have on their day. When you see Watford, they have a couple of performances, brilliant. They look fantastic, but it's not consistent enough. I know it's hard of them to ask. I don't see Watford as a top 10 side ever. I don't.
No.
But I think last season the fans were getting a bit restless from what I've seen on Twitter and what I've heard. They were getting a bit restless towards the end of the season. But I do think they'll stay up. I think Brighton and Huddersfield will suffer from second season syndrome. Obviously, I haven't asked outright, but we'll start with you, Swanky. Who were your top 4 and your bottom 3 to go down this season?
I think it wouldn't surprise me if it was the same top 4, even in a different order. I think it's going to be the same top 4 near about. I'm not really sure if anyone's going to fight Man City for the title, so I have to put them first. And then anyone out of Man City, Man United and Liverpool for second and third, I think it's their fight to challenge Man City. And I think if they don't, I don't think anyone will. And then it's basically Chelsea, Tottenham and Arsenal's fight for that last 4th spot.
It's very interesting to see. I think the top 6 will say the same. It's obviously going to be West Ham, Everton and Wolves knocking on the door, isn't it, this season? In terms of fighting for European positions. I don't think Burnley will do it again. I might be proved wrong. But Cam, I'd be interested to see, as a Liverpool fan, what you think of. Do you reckon Liverpool can challenge City closely for the title this season?
I think Klopp needs to win a trophy this season, whether it's the Premier League or the League Cup. For him, I think, to keep the fans quiet, I think they need to win a trophy. And I think, obviously, he's done a fantastic job. The signings he's made, brilliant. You can't doubt the way Liverpool have changed in the last 4 years he's been there.
No, I completely agree.
Superb, and he's done a fantastic job. And I just think now you've got to take that next step and progress to the next level. And if he can win a trophy, I think that will, obviously, we're agonisingly close to the Champions League last year. But I think, obviously, I know they had the great Champions League run. I think this year you've just got to focus on the league. And we've proven last year that you can beat Manchester City. And I think Kyle Walker was saying in an interview earlier in the season, a few weeks ago, was saying that he reckons the biggest test for Man City again will be Liverpool. And I think Liverpool, I predict we'll finish second, but I'd like to see us be up there again in a title race. And I
personally put Liverpool for second as well. But the big thing with last season is, yes, you had the Champions League final. And yes, you had Mo Salah, who scored 40 goals, and Firmino and Mane, who were absolutely superb all season. At the end of the day, you did fizzle out at the end of the season, didn't you? A little bit with position. You could have easily finished second ahead of Man United. Yeah. And you could have finished third ahead of Tottenham. I think. Did you finish 4th? I think you did, didn't you?
We did, yeah. And again, as I said, that was down. I personally think that was down to the Champions League final and beating
it's a big distraction.
Roma. But again, and I think there was a problem last year with strength and depth, and you look what you strengthened now, and you can't. The strength and depth was brilliant now. So, and I think Klopp knew, as you said, fizzled out. I think he realised that himself, and he's addressed those problems. I said earlier, I think we still need a centre half, and I'll stand by that. But obviously, he's the manager. I'm not. So
yeah, it's an interesting one. I've gone for Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and surprisingly Arsenal. I think under Emery, it's going to be, in my opinion, may not be right. I'm not going to say it's the perfect opinion, but if Unai gets it right and he gets his players on his side, I think Arsenal could break into the top 4 again.
Yeah.
Obviously, Swanky, as a United fan, you've seen my prediction and you laughed it off at the 5th place finish. But yes, the quality's there for United. But you look at how Sanchez played for Man United last season. You look at how Lukaku scored goals, but he wasn't world class. I know you can't be world class every game you play, but he didn't have enough constant spells for me last season. And I think you not sorted out your centre back problem, like even Liverpool said they wanted a centre back. It was kind of, you were snubbed off a couple of times by Boateng and Godin and Harry. Well, I don't know what the situation was with Harry Maguire, if he wanted to go or they couldn't agree on terms or a fee for him. But it's I think it's going to be the same top 6 as last season. I just think it'd be nice to see Wolves and Everton challenge, but I just can't see it personally.
Yeah, I agree. It's just going to be money. Again, the money between the top sides and the smaller sides, the gap is huge. And I agree with Swanky, really. I think the top 4 will probably stay the same. Man City top, Liverpool second. I think Liverpool actually goes second. And then I'd say, in my opinion, it's between United and Spurs for 3rd and 4th, and then Arsenal, Chelsea scrapping it out for 5th and 6th. I don't know. It's a difficult one because obviously you don't know how well Sarri or Emery's going to do. But going into the season, that would be my prediction: is Spurs, who've obviously they've done it consistently last few years, getting the top 4, and I can see them doing it again.
Very, very interesting point. I think with Chelsea is a big one because Chelsea fans are all anxious about this season coming up. Well, obviously they've made a couple of signings in the last a couple of days in the window. Before that, they'd early signed Jorginho. I mean, they had was it Callum Hudson-Odoi playing quite well in pre-season?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not going to feature much in the first team. Let's be realistic about it. He's going to be another Phil Foden, isn't it? He's going to play 3 or 4 times and just be scattered about, which is the problem with Chelsea, I think. They've got so many good youngsters coming through that club. For example, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who was pretty decent for England in the World Cup. I'm not going to say anything but worse about any of the England players in the squad. Loftus-Cheek played fantastic, and he played fantastic for Palace last season. And he's just going to be. He didn't get a loan deal, and he's not, like you said, the Premier League window's closed. He's not going to get a loan deal to a Premier League club, is he?
No.
So that must mean Chelsea are planning to play him.
You never know. He might go to the classic Chelsea place and go to Vitesse Arnhem on a season-long loan, where half the squad goes.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. But would Loftus-Cheek want to play in the Eredivisie?
No. Well, if he wants to progress as an England player, that would be the worst possible move. Although it would mean he was playing first-team football, so that's obviously a decision he's going to have to make. But he doesn't look like he's going to be a first-teamer under Sarri with Jorginho and Kovacic. Again, if you look at Kovacic, is he going to be a first-team footballer at Chelsea?
I think Chelsea have been mugged off with that transfer. I really do. They didn't handle the contract well with Courtois at all, and they've not got the money they should have got for him, and they've not got what in return. They've got Kovacic, who's just going to go back to Madrid at the end of the season. Madrid have just gone, look, have him for a season, and we'll have him back. Yeah,
and Kepa, obviously, he's a fantastic goalkeeper, but it's a bit like a similar situation to Alisson at Liverpool. It's a huge transfer fee, and it's how they react to it. Because obviously we've seen players before. You look at Neymar, PSG, he was fine. Ousmane Dembele, big money to Barcelona, and struggled. And look at a few years back, Fernando Torres, fantastic at Liverpool, went to Chelsea, struggled. So it's all whether the money affects them.
Yeah, there was 5 million between the Kepa deal and the Alisson deal, and I think one of the big differences is there's a couple of notable points. Alisson's a Champions League semi-finalist playing at the top level of Serie A, challenging for the title.
Yeah.
Athletic Bilbao, where Kepa came from, which were fighting relegation for most of last season. They were in the bottom half. They got knocked out early in the Europa League. I think they got knocked out in the last 32. It's a big difference, and it's a big step up for both keepers, obviously. Liverpool's one of the biggest clubs in the world. Chelsea's one of the biggest clubs in the world. We're growing into it. It's an interesting one, to say the least, with that situation.
Definitely, yeah. So, I'm just for them, obviously for their sakes, they're young goalkeepers. Just wish them all the best, and hopefully that they can step up to the plate.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope they live up to the transfer value. I mean, it's pretty hard to live up to that value straight off the bat. But it's going to be a lot of pressure on both keepers. Obviously, Liverpool in the last couple of seasons haven't been blessed with, brilliant goalkeeping. I'm not being harsh at all, but they haven't really.
True, yeah. And you do I still feel for Karius, but again, he's just, for him personally, it's a bit unfortunate that he didn't manage to get a move yesterday, but it still wouldn't surprise me if Karius did actually head back to Germany on loan.
Yeah, I think a Bundesliga loan deal would suit him really, because then you've got your reserve keeper, haven't you? And you've still got a couple of young keepers in the squad.
Yeah, and I just think for him to get out the limelight for a while, and because even in pre-season he made a couple of howlers. There was one against Dortmund, one against Tranmere, and it was like, this is Tranmere. They've just got promoted from the National League. You can't be making mistakes against them.
No, I agree.
And although the result or anything, it was only pre-season, didn't mean anything. The result, Liverpool still won. It's a problem we've had recently, especially last year. You see 3-3 draws, and after being 3-0 up, and that nearly happened at Tranmere in pre-season. 3-0 up, and it finished 3-2. It was and that was down to the goalkeeping errors. And he can't hide from that fact. And I just think the best thing for him would be to go out on loan.
Well, we will chat about this again on Monday. Oh, well, I don't think there's any Monday Night Football this week, so it will be a Monday afternoon chat about the weekend review. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure for you two. I hope you come back, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Just having a chat about football in general and getting some views off your head. So, pre-season's done. The transfer window is done. Let's just roll on the weekend. Thank you for listening, and we shall catch you in the next video.